Kia ora. Ko Aotea te waka, ko Rupehu te maunga, ko Wanganui te awa. Ko Ngāti hine aro, rawa ko Ngāti tuera ngā hapu, ko Mereana Parkinson, ahau. As I've just said, originally I was brought up in Wanganui, but our folk come from the beautiful Wanganui River, and our hapu te pungarehu, you can't actually see it, but it's in that photo. And the awa is really important to us. Ko au te awa, ko au. And that's who I am. This is where my mokopuna and I live now, in the beautiful east coast Te Kaha area. That area is called Te Paripari, and my mokopuna also shares the name Paripari. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate the fact that you have taken the time and the trouble to come to this presentation. We are going to go through how it came to be and have a look at some of the things around it. Essentially, this came about because in our group, under the umbrella of Awanuiarangi, we have a literacy numeracy group called Ako Tuapapa. Our work is mostly with foundation level learners, that is level 1 to 4. And so we spend a lot of time trying to figure out real good ways to engage them and help the tutors engage them and move them on. So we were looking for something that would bridge the gap between, I guess, about level 1 foundation learners with their literacy, and we were focusing on literacy in particular, and level 4. So that's how it came about. Now, the name Awhio+Model came from our very esteemed colleague, Dr. Rapata Wiri, who has done a lot of work in his own rohe of tūhoi, ruatahuna in particular. And as we talked, he suggested the name Awhio, which is tornado, and it kind of encapsulated for me the spiralness of the learning process. So he very kindly gave us that name to use, and it kind of epitomises how learning can start from here and how with the right inputs and encouragement it can grow and widen, and it can be extended in all sorts of different ways. And by repeating the spiralness, the awhio, it can consolidate, it can extend, and it can refine thoughts to get them to a point where you get valid writing at the end. I also believe that this process helps attain and maintain engagement of the learner. When I was a little fella, our dad used to say often to me and my sisters and my brothers, listen to yourself talk. The other thing he used to say often is, don't say anything unless you say anything nice, but you know, I kind of forget that sometimes. But he was really big on the listen to yourself talk. And it's taken a long time, but all of a sudden it kind of went ka-ching, you know, and that incidentally, that is one of his 72 uri, his great-great-grandson sitting on his knee. Partly what inspired this was the mama was saying something about that little boy it was in jest, but it wasn't the nicest thing in the world, and he said, "Kōtero, listen to yourself." And I thought, oh, really, still saying that same old message. So it's got to be, you know, if somebody at 96 is still giving that same message, it's got to have some grain of truth in it. Anyway, here he was, still giving this message. Around about this time, my colleagues and I were at a retreat at a lovely place called Waitahi, working on trying to pull strategies together for our tutors. And I'm not a very good speaker, and I'm not a very good organiser of things, and I tend to get a pen in my hand and pace up and down and talk to myself and scribble on the whiteboard. That's the way I work. And I'm very, very fortunate in that I have extremely tolerant and understanding colleagues who kind of just let me go, and you could almost see their eyes rolling. But nevertheless, they were very kind and let me go. And then it kind of dawned on me what I was doing was talking, clarifying my own thoughts, refining my own thoughts, and coming up with, constantly rephrasing and coming up with what I wanted to come up with, but I didn't know where I was going. Now, it might sound odd, but that's kind of where I was going. And it dawned on me that that's probably what's missing for many of our learners. They are not getting the opportunity to talk to themselves and to talk with each other. Many of our learners are in situations in classrooms where the tutors might get time to talk to them or talk at them, but there's not a space and time made for them to talk to each other. I quite strongly believe that it's a big chunk that is missing out of the literacy pathway, the talk time. And I think about my children and my grandchildren who are fortunate to have experiences like this. There's no TV, there's no cell phone, they talk. Huge amounts of talk. And I kind of thought, well, we've got to give them really good experiences to leverage the talk. And it dawned on me that there's a huge number of people who really don't have that many really robust, valid experiences to leverage the talk off. So I kind of think that as tutors, we've got to provide those opportunities. And I know that many of our tutors have huge constraints around time, but I think time is the bit in our lives that we don't value enough and we don't make use of.